And friends, we are live. Good to see you on this Monday, June the 23rd, isn't it? Boy, it feels like we're in the doldrums of summer a bit as well. How you doing? Rusty back here, CFLW The Show, live here on the CFLW YouTube channel. Good to see you guys. Hope things are well. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. A lot to get into in this video. We're going to talk about some of the building heat. I mean, some extremely hot conditions over the next couple of days, then turning into a stormier pattern by mid to late week. As we get started, and as always, CFLW The Show, sponsored by the leading law firm of Central Florida. You see their logo right there at the bottom of your screen. They are your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys, friends, and it is storm season. Storm moves across your area. We get these general thunderstorms in the afternoon. It can cause some damaging winds and some hail damage. We get a tropical system to come through. I can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. We never like to think about it, but we want someone on our side. When that happens, you can go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. Good to see you guys. What's going on? Hey, Kevin, how are you this afternoon? Church people fixing the sound system struck by lightning. There were some doozy of storms in our western areas. My parents live in Citrus County, where I grew up, not in Crystal River anymore, but where they live in Citrus County, they had like 6 to 7 inches of rain, I think on Friday, like just a hellacious thunderstorm. The interesting thing is that there wasn't any severe thunderstorm warnings associated with those. Of course, heavy rain and lightning are not criteria for severe thunderstorms. I think there were a couple of special weather statements, but you know, it got rowdier here in our western zones, and we still have our East Coast sea breeze that'll be marching in, and you can clearly see that here on the visible satellite imagery for today. So we'll start to see that East Coast sea breeze march in and the opportunity for a few showers. Now, this should help to cool things off a little bit, relatively speaking, along the East Coast, and it's going to stay very hot out in our western areas. Hey, Blue Goose, how are you? St. Augustine back in the house, 88 degrees, 71% humidity. Summer is here. I got to tell you. Hey, Jesse, how are you? Spring Hill, humid and 93. Yeah, it is going to be extremely hot out west for today. These are your current temperatures. You want to talk about summertime. I've got the preeminent summer story to tell you guys here. Just about an hour ago, I went downstairs and I told my kids, I was like, look, I can either make you lunch now or I can make you lunch after the show. And my 12-year-old looked at me and was like, what are you talking about? It's Wednesday. And I'm like, perfect. You know, to have that innocence, to not even know what day of the week it is. That's being a kid in the summertime. I was actually very jealous. I was like, well, I wish it was Wednesday, but it's not. It's actually Monday. And he looked at me like shocked. He's like, what? You know, anyway. 3 people hit by lightning in NSB the other day. I think they're okay. I actually heard that report as well, and I hadn't gotten an update either, Blue Goose. Look, it's that time of the year. You gotta be uber careful about these storms that are developing here, right? I mean, the lightning obviously is a big threat, and we have a lot of tourists who come here to our beautiful area and enjoy things, but you got to be very weather aware, you know, if you're going to be outside in this environment. And again, we've had some earlier storms as well. This is what it looks like right now on the composite radar. Let's take a look at what's kind of developing across the region at this point in time. Throw this in motion for you guys as well. I'll tell you what. Dump off movie. There we go. All right, so far today, we've had a couple of showers that have kind of developed right along I-95 and snuck their way in. So just light rain right now, you know, but we got a little bit extra cloud coverage to look at right now with a couple of showers, you know, from the Deltona area back into the northeast sides of Lake County. Some of this is going to be sprinkling and dabbing its way over Orlando. So Winter Springs and Altamont Springs downtown. Nice little shower developing over Avalon Park. And, you know, these will pulse up. We'll probably get a little bit of lightning as we go through the 1 o'clock hour with this, but they're also fairly fast moving. So showers right now getting over Conway. We'll take a look at that camera in just a second. And all of this activity will continue to work its way from east to west. It'll be more prominent today again in our western zones for the opportunity for some stronger storms that could get pinned along the west coast, with the west coast sea breeze kind of staying out there. Let me bring on the current conditions for you guys so you can kind of take a look at this with the radar as well. And we'll also bring on our winds. So again, temperatures are very uniform at the hour, upper 80s to right around 90. Make these arrows a little bit bigger. These are your surface-based winds. We still have our big ridge of high pressure situated here. We've got our clockwise winds around it, which means we're staying with the easterlies, but you know, the air, relatively speaking, is still dry. And we're going to get some rain the next couple of days. We'll start to moisten back up on Wednesday, and then we'll have the opportunity for more widespread storms, and some of those on the stronger side as we go towards mid to late week. But passing showers at this point in time, when you factor in the humidity and the dew points, so your dew points are all in the low to mid 70s, very typical for the end of June. You factor that in, this is what it really feels like outside at the hour, right? So, look, we're not gonna hate a cooling shower or storm in downtown Orlando. The executive airport at 11 o'clock today had a heat index of 96. Thanks to the showers that have come through, they're back down to 91. MCO has not had any rain, and the current feels like temperature there at 1 o'clock is 101 degrees. Steamy for the attractions area as well. Feels like it's 96 in Kissimmee, 98 in Sanford, Oviedo. Still have some triple-digit heat indices out here. The Titusville area towards Port St. John, right around 100. Melbourne, O'Galley, Palm Bay, feels like temperature 96. The Cape, 97, 98. And these numbers should hold steady the majority of the afternoon, but our temperatures and our feels like numbers out west should just continue to climb until the showers and storms move in. So it's not going to shock me down the I-75 corridor that we start pumping in some triple digit heat. And you want to talk about already baking. Look at the Tampa Bay area. St. Pete right now, it feels like it's 103, downtown Tampa 102, South Tampa 101. See what Bradenton, Sarasota looks like. 97, 98. I mean, steam bath out there right now. Now, there is a complex of storms moving through the south side of Polk County that is going to try and make a run into southern Hillsborough, portions of Manatee and Sarasota. There's a little bit of lightning associated with that as well, but you kind of get the idea of what the current situation is. And of course, I've got other ways to show you that. We got to take a live look to Conway right now. Again, southeast Orlando, looking across the lake. You can see some of the showers off towards the east, just kind of building across the area right now. Bit of a breeze outside for you, but if you live, in the interior sections of the state, you're probably seeing a little bit more in the way of the billowing clouds at the hour and the opportunity for a couple of showers out there as well. So, again, this is just a developing situation as we typically see here this time of the year. Of course, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you're going to get live updates across all of Central Florida, with many of the cities here giving you the current conditions in those spots. Let's see what the current conditions look like in Winter Garden at the area. Again, live look outside there, the western side of Orange County. We're looking back off towards the west right now. So again, this is moving, away from the actual storm movement, but even a little bit of cloud coverage beginning to develop some darker bases there, just to get an indication. Some of the moisture in the atmosphere, nothing is attached yet. So these are all still kind of fair weather clouds, but eventually these are going to build up more, into our cumulus and our cumulus nimbus to get a better chance for some showers and storms. And then looking back off towards the attractions, again, that's kind of looking away from where some of the rain is trying to develop at the hour. But for the present time, Lake Buena Vista is still dry, but it's all scenario here where I do expect us to get some storms to be moving into the afternoon hours. Now, it's going to be the same scenario where we're going to favor our western zones today. We're going to have locally heavy rain and a lot of lightning. But again, is that going to warrant any special weather statements or severe thunderstorm warnings? That's yet to be seen. Again, heavy rain, even a flood threat, lightning is not a criteria for severe thunderstorms. I say that all the time because folks sometimes get confused as to, Rusty, I'm getting hammered right now in my area. Why do I not have, a severe thunderstorm warning? Well, that's the case. You can clearly see we still have our easterly flow in play here. There's our ridge of high pressure building in across the area. Now, I always told you guys that we're going to cover any tropical situation here. If you haven't heard as of yet, we actually have our first invest area about 600 miles east of Bermuda. All right. So we have our first invest. It's moving away from any landmass, right? It actually looks a little bit less impressive than what it did earlier today and certainly yesterday. This is the visible satellite imagery here. It's also running into cooler temperatures at the ocean. I mean, there you can see that spin. Relatively impressive, drier air out to the west. This is not going to influence anyone, but there's a very narrow window of opportunity to get the first tropical depression of the year. All right. So we'll see what the Hurricane Center does. Right now, it's Invest 90L. Again, the first one of the season, so it gets the designation 90, and they'll go 90 to 99, and then go back over to 90 again. So, you know, maximum sustained winds are 34, which is, again, teetering on tropical depression strength if they wanted to pull the trigger. But the question is, do they want to pull the trigger for a storm that they know is going to fall apart in the next 24 hours? They might. They might. But again, if you hadn't heard, that's the first system there. Otherwise, in the short term, we're looking quiet here. And by the way, the East Pacific could be in store for their 6th named storm of their season in short order. Pretty outrageous there. All right, so let's get into our forecast. This is what it looks like as far as the risk for severe storms for today. Now, again, a blanket chance for storms across most of the eastern half of the United States, especially the southeast, Arklatex, back into the southern plains. No organized severe weather is likely for today. We are in the general risk for thunderstorms pretty much each and every day until early October or beyond. We'll probably be in some kind of a generalized risk for storms, right? It's just as the environment that we're in, despite the fact that I actually think, relatively speaking, the chance for rain today and tomorrow is somewhat lower than what it typically is, especially for tomorrow, friends. Tomorrow is going to be about the heat. I've got some 3-day forecasts to talk about, but then eventually we're going to turn into a much wetter pattern as well. I'm going to do this on the fly. I'm going to see if the drought monitor has decided to update correctly. Let's see here. Yes. Okay. So just so we're clear, the rain and the active pattern that we've had has done a lot of good, right? Technically now, the Orlando metro area is not under any form of a drought or is not even considered to be abnormally dry, right? So that is fantastic news. Your abnormally dry is going to be kind of that peach color, right? Then you get into the slight drought in yellow, you get into the moderate drought in orange, and thankfully we don't have the exceptional or the extreme drought anymore here in the peninsula. So the active pattern has done us some good. Still some spots that could use some rain, portions of Ocala, Marion County, Lake County, the coastal and central areas of Pasco and Hernando counties. Some of the spots that are still drier, but obviously as wet as we have been over the last month, it's done us some good. And my grass is a heck of a lot greener than what it was. So just the updated drought index for you guys. Now look, we could still use some more rain, and the thing that we don't want to do is just shut things off. But there's nothing that I see in the forecast that is going to be doing that, despite the fact, again, that the next couple of days might be a little bit drier than what you would typically expect to see here for this time of the year. So let's get into the models. We'll do that. I've got your city-by-city forecast, and then we'll also take a look at a little bit, a couple of other things that I'm going to be monitoring for later in the week. So I'm going to bring up the HER model first. High-resolution rapid refresh. This, again, takes us out, 48 hours, so it'll get us into our Wednesday morning. Going to throw this into motion. We'll talk more about today and then tomorrow, and then get into that transition for some stormier weather for us here as we get into Wednesday. But, the bottom line is that we've had storms develop across I-4 in the early afternoon hours. Some of them haven't moved much. There was a heck of a storm yesterday over like Lake Apopka area, right? Again, just a good summer thunderstorm that just didn't move. And it took a while to actually clear out, right? Now you can see again here, and let me bring up the model timeline on the top left-hand side of your screen. So here we go. So this is this afternoon, right? We're going to have a few showers and storms mainly develop across I-75. I'm not going to rule out a couple of showers across I-4, that kind of pulse up, but they should be moving away. There should be a little bit more forward speed to some of this activity than what we've had the last couple of days. A little bit more steering current out of the east. So our driest air is going to be across I-95. Still could see a shower or an isolated storm move inland from the beaches, but you can clearly see the concentration of storms for today is going to be the western side of Polk, portions of Hillsborough, Pinellas, coastal sides of Manatee and Sarasota counties. So if you live in these spots, you know anyone who does. Of course, we cover all of Central Florida here on CFLW, Tarpon Springs, Palm Harbor, Dunedin, Clearwater, Carrollwood, Citrus Park, Temple Terrace, Tampa, Brandon, Seffner, Pinellas Park, Indian Shores, St. Pete towards Ruskin, Anna Maria Island, Cortez, the Bradenton area. So you get the coastal sides here from the inland areas, the Bradenton right along the coast, Bayshore Gardens, Sarasota. Could be some pretty healthy storms here for today. All right. Again, we'll be monitoring that situation for you guys. And this is where they could linger a little bit longer today. So I am expecting our southwest areas in general to be much more active on this Monday afternoon. And again, heavy rain, storms, gusty winds, 40 to 55 mile an hour winds, a lot of lightning. You're going to want to be indoors as these roll through. Can't rule out a special weather statement or an isolated severe thunderstorm warning should see these go away as we lose the heat of the day. That should stay around as well as far as the opportunity. Tomorrow we'll start off dry, and then we'll pick it back up again tomorrow afternoon. Same situation where the East Coast sea breeze will be more dominant. Now, we are pushing in some drier air to our northern areas, okay? So I think the opportunity for rain and storms on your Tuesday is going to be kind of I-4 south, really our southern areas, maybe southern Brevard and Indian River County, in the lunchtime, early afternoon hours as the showers develop and move inland. But those late afternoon storms, southern Osceola, Polk, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Manatee, Sarasota counties, and they're not going to be as much. Much more prolific storms, relatively speaking, today compared to tomorrow. It means that the story for your Tuesday is the heat. And I do expect there to be some upper 90s for daytime highs tomorrow in some spots, okay? And then we'll be quiet overnight and into our Wednesday morning, and we'll pick up the GFS model from there in just a second. If we take a look at temperatures, and I know what I've come up with, and I actually haven't queried our model here yet, so I'm going to be curious as to what it says as well. So these are your temperatures at 5 o'clock. Let's do 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Where you see these colors, that's indicative of the rain that is developing to cool things off a bit. Now I know what I put in for Ocala tomorrow, but let's see what you'll see on my 3-day forecast. I've got 97 for a daytime high tomorrow in Ocala. So right on. So the HRRR model, and these are surface temperatures, get ready. The HRRR model is bringing some exceptional heat to portions of our northwest areas. This is tomorrow afternoon. 96 in Inverness, 95 in the northeast sides of Lake County. A little shower there, that's why it's cooler, right? Again, we don't have the radar on here, but the only reason why this would be 87 and it'll tell us 93 is it's trying to develop a little bit of cloud coverage and rain. But, Gainesville would be included in this as well. 98, Blue Goose for you. It's going to be better. If I back it up to 2 o'clock before the rain really moves in, clear that off. Even then, St. Augustine might not even hit 90. But again, 97, Gainesville, at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, Ocala's already 96. MCO 93, Claremont 89. Again, it all depends on where the clouds are, but if you have full sunshine and you have no threat for any rain, which our northern zones probably won't for tomorrow afternoon, I think it's about 94 to 97 for a daytime high, which means feels like temperatures are going to be in the triple digits. The humidity values aren't outrageously hot tomorrow, but it's not going to surprise me. Again, the heat advisory criteria in Central Florida is really high. We probably won't be at that again for tomorrow afternoon, but it's going to be stinking hot. So get prepared for that. It's not going to be a lot of fun as far as that goes for tomorrow afternoon. All right, let's get into the 3-day forecast, and then we'll break down what I expect starting on Wednesday and transitioning into a better opportunity for storms. So again, in Orlando tomorrow, mainly dry, just a 20% chance for a shower, breezy east wind. That might actually make it feel slightly better outside. 94 the daytime high. We'll pick it up to a 40% chance for storms to Wednesday afternoon, and then all the way up to a 60% chance for storms on Thursday. So building rain and storm chances. Some of the storms on Thursday, widespread, heavier, a little bit rowdier, opportunity, for a couple of isolated severe thunderstorms on Thursday. Daytime highs that will be in the lower to mid 90s here in Orange County. In Tampa, right? Storms will be building in. Locally heavy rainfall is possible. Now look, overall, storm chances will still be lower in coverage than normal even today and certainly tomorrow. Remember, we talked about today is more prolific, drier tomorrow, just a 30% chance, and then building it back up again on Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday, a 50% chance, Thursday, 60. By the way, in the Tampa area today, it is a 50 to 60% chance for storms, but you saw on the HER model, it's going to be drier for tomorrow. 94, the daytime high there, feels like temperature in the low triple digits, and then falling back down with a few more storms earlier in the day. By Thursday, we're up to 92. Marion County, extreme heat tomorrow. Almost full sunshine, 97 the daytime high, right? Feels like temperature will sneak into the triple digits there. Ocala, the villages, our friends, you know, the very old, the very young, who can't tolerate the heat, they're going to want to be sitting out the afternoon hours tomorrow. Find the shade, drink plenty of water, get the golf, the pickleball in early, or the tennis and everything else in very late. You're going to want to avoid the midday sun up there, right? Still hot on Wednesday. We're going to pick up a better chance for storms, up to 95 for the daytime high. And then a very stormy day on Thursday. Look how we flipped the switch here in a very short amount of time. We go from an extremely hot, dry forecast tomorrow to an 80% chance for storms on Thursday with a high of 93. Hey, Kyle, how you doing? I appreciate that, Kyle. Yeah, it is. You know, again, we invest in our technology here, and I've got my Lean Law tumbler as well. I always point it in the wrong direction. Publix Diet Green Tea, as typically always. I try not to drink a lot of calories. I eat enough. All right, now let's look along the East Coast. So again, we talked about how the East Coast, with the East Coast sea breeze today, tomorrow, the drier area. Same situation in Palm Coast. Not really expecting any rain. Pretty much mostly sunny, if not full sunshine in Flagler County tomorrow, 89 the daytime high. Again, with the East Coast sea breeze coming in early in the day, you tap into the relatively cooler waters of the coastal Atlantic, so they are not going to be as hot. If you want to beat the heat, it's the East Coast over the next couple of days. Sunny and breezy tomorrow, brisk east wind. Could kick up some local sea conditions there along the coastline. 40% chance on Wednesday, but even in Palm Coast, we're really cranking up the notch in a hurry, because now on Thursday, we're up to a 70% chance for storms there and a high right around 90 degrees. So it gets a lot more active beginning late Wednesday and especially into the latter part of the week. So now let's get into that for you guys. Go back over here to the weather computer. Takes me just 1 second to make it fully operational back on my side. So, all right, let's do this. Bring up the GFS. Again, we're looking longer range here, so we got to go to our global models. Bring that up. Activity. And we'll pick it up on Wednesday itself. So let's start. We'll start in the morning. That's fine. And then we'll take it through Friday afternoon. Nope. I took it through Saturday. Who the heck cares? All right. So again, and I'm just going to let this loop up, still have our dominant area of high pressure here off of our East Coast, still nudging in drier air than normal. That eventually is going to get pushed away, and we're going to have a little bit more active weather coming in from the mid-levels of the atmosphere to our north. So you're going to just start to see things get a little bit wetter here overall in the southeast. We're still going to get the localized sea breeze to be the dominant weather factor, but just like when we were last stormy, we're going to have a little bit of help with a weak trough moving in and getting some mid-level support. So it's going to enhance the sea breeze, and the west coast sea breeze will also start to get a little bit more active and engaged and push back inland rather than just having the east coast sea breeze march across the coastline all the way to the west coast. Both sea breezes should be able to push inland a touch beginning on Wednesday. That does a couple of things. First of all, you get a stronger clash of those sea breezes, right? A healthier bump in. And then, you know, beginning on Wednesday, once these storms develop, then you get the old outflow boundaries. That can be additional areas to develop more storms beginning on Thursday. So once the sea breezes both begin to march inland, not only do you get the better interaction of the two, but then you get the old outflow boundaries from the previous day's storms to allow there to be yet another focal point, if you will, for storms beginning Thursday and into Friday. So picking it up from here, this is again Wednesday morning, and you'll see by Wednesday afternoon, we pick up a little bit more. Now, again, the GFS is still a little bit drier on Wednesday than what I would expect it to be, all right? But beginning on Thursday, you're gonna start to see the better storm chances move in. Remember, I had an 80% chance for storms up in Marion County, and you can see by Thursday afternoon, our storm coverage becomes a lot more widespread, all right? So typically what we would see, and then you can just see the coverage here. And again, typical hours, by the way, late afternoon into the early evening hours of your Thursday. Storms then fall apart. Here is Friday. Again, healthy storms, re-energized again, higher than normal rain chance. Is it better farther south, or will there still be storms up north? Still yet to be seen. That's the kind of the daily battle here when you're talking about the sea breeze and a little bit more interaction. And then as we get into Saturday, I think we're back more into a 50% chance for storms here. There's still going to be some wet weather. We're not going to have as much mid-level support from the atmosphere, so it'll be more about the sea breezes. But I really do believe that, especially Thursday, it's going to be pretty darn wet and stormy across the area. So again, this is Thursday at 5 o'clock, and then there's Thursday at 8 o'clock. And you can just see overall healthier storm chances in general. I'll loop it up one more time on the wider shot for you guys, so you can keep an eye on that. So the bottom line is this. Today and tomorrow, it's actually more about the heat. Unless you live in the Tampa Bay area, then you are going to get a stormy late afternoon, and I'll be monitoring the situation there. Most of us will be dry and outrageously hot for tomorrow, so keep that in mind for any outdoor plans. We'll start to stem the tide and turn it beginning on Wednesday afternoon, back up to a 50% chance for storms in most areas, higher the farther north that you go, and then it all breaks loose on Thursday, where I think we've got a 70 to 80% chance for storms, staying close to that level, maybe falling a category 50, 60 on Friday, and then back down to a 40, 50 on Saturday as far as coverage goes. But the sea breezes are going to be a lot more active. Risk for severe storms for your Tuesday, tomorrow. Try to get ahead of myself here. First of all, again, very classic, southeast, mid-Atlantic states, Tennessee Valley, everyone has a chance for a storm from the SPC. The interesting thing is that all the really active weather has been far north. Have you guys been following what's been happening in the Dakotas and some of the tornadic activity, but also some of the heat that has been up there as well? It's been outrageously hot. And then the risk for storms on Wednesday, this is kind of the beginning of the trend change, right? Now, as that system moves in late Wednesday, we actually have a marginal risk for storms that gets a little bit south of I-10. It's still out of our area, but it's close to Alachua County and just north of places like Levy County. But, Lake City, Jacksonville, towards the end of the day, a marginal, just a 1 out of 5 on the risk. And the main threat's going to be wind, right? Getting those wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour. Now, in the 4 to 8 day time frame, beginning on Thursday, there's no risk from the SPC for our area as of yet. So if I go to the day 4 risk here, they're only going to circle in areas that they have a high confidence in, and there's no spot right now for the entire country on Thursday. It's not shocking, right? But potentially down the road, what I'm trying to get at is this risk on Thursday gets a little bit into Central Florida, and I'll be monitoring that for you guys as well. And obviously, if there's an opportunity or need to come back on live for you guys at any point in time, I'll do that as well. Yeah, the storm chase is up there. Again, I know Reed Timmer, met him when we both, when he was a student or a grad student at OU, and I worked in Oklahoma City. And so I knew him from way back in the day, like 2007. I think when we first met. Anyway, they were like legitimately in a tornado, and a big one, up in the western Great Lakes over the weekend. But yeah, really nasty storms there. All right, let's go back over to our live cameras for those of you who are just tuning in. Live shot, and again, these are our live cameras here. This is going to be from the Conway area of downtown Orlando. Now we're looking back off towards the east. This is an area where we could get a couple of showers to develop. If it's going to happen in this area, it's going to happen in the next hour or two, because then that east coast sea breeze just marches everything towards the west coast. So if we're going to catch a couple of showers here and maybe give your lawn a little bit more rain, although, again, it's been pretty wet in the Orlando area lately, and we've busted the drought, which is great to hear. We've did that relatively quickly. Remember, this is the time of the year that if we don't get the sea breeze to come in, this is our highest fire threat. Late June, if we have not had the wet season kick in, we've had that from time to time over the last 10 years, but we were so darn dry through May, and then we really got nice and stormy here to provide us the opportunity to get rid of the drought in portions of Central Florida, and at worst be under a moderate drought in a couple of spots, but even that is coming down as well. Live look outside of Winter Garden, western side of Orange County. Again, we're looking to the west here. You just see a little bit of a development, a little bit more vertical, but at this point in time, still fair weather clouds, just a little bit darker bases out there. And again, if places like Apopka and Ocoee and Winter Garden and the Oakland area on over towards Claremont and Lake County, if we're going to get some showers, it's going to happen in the next hour or two before everything kind of pushes off towards the west. And the attractions area still looks pretty good as well. Live look out there to Lake Buena Vista. Again, the Disney property is just beyond this tree stand here. We're just about a mile away from the Magic Kingdom from this shot, so it's about as close as you can get. Still looking pretty good there. Again, same situation for Lake Buena Vista. If we're going to get a couple of showers here, it's going to probably happen in the next hour or two before everything decides to push off towards the west. And again, if you live in our western zones, those are the areas with the best chance for thunderstorms later in the day. All right, back over to the weather computer. One more look at what's happening right now. Fortunately, I turned off Melbourne radar. It's been in that standby mode. See if I can bring up Tampa's radar, if it's going to cooperate. Let me do that. Here, let me just do one thing real fast, guys. No, okay, all right. Well, we'll just look at the composite. It's not a big deal. We'll loop this over the last couple of hours. So here's what's going on right now if you're just tuning in. We do have a couple of light showers sneaking through the eastern sides of Marion, Northern Lake, back over into Orange County. So again, places like Mount Dora and Apopka, Zellwood, even towards downtown Orlando, a few showers here and there, right? Picking up a little bit more right now over Pine Castle and Sky Lake, Belle Isle, Oak Ridge. No lightning out of any of this as of yet. Let me bring on the lightning data for you guys. Okay. That is not wanting to cooperate, but I don't think we have any there. Now look, these could pulse up a little bit here, right, as they drive off. So, Lake Buena Vista is dry right now, but here comes the shower. So I do believe that we are going to get a little bit of rain developing back here. Now the interesting thing about this too is, to me, I would take it. Give me this light shower now. You know why? Downtown Orlando has cooled back down to 84 degrees. Let me get back into the 80s right now. I'll take that. MCO, about to get a shower. This should not affect air travel. Just a little bit of rain moving through the area right now. Same situation in Kissimmee. Let's get a couple of showers there. Up north, again, now you live in Sanford, you live in Oviedo, you can say goodbye to your rain chance. Everything's moving off towards the west. Again, picking up just a little bit at the hour towards Mount Dora and Eustis and Tavares there across 441. Just spotty rain though. And again, eventually down the road, this all develops a little bit more and gets stronger as it gets towards Tampa. There's another cluster down here, way down here, and you can see there's a little bit of lightning associated with that in the frost-proof area, far southern sides of Polk County. And all of this will traverse into the southern sides of Hillsborough and portions of Manatee and Sarasota counties, where we even have a couple of light showers developing at the hour there. Things are going to be billowing up. I mean, it's just that time of the afternoon. We're getting to 2 o'clock where, we're going to get these storms going, but it's all East Coast sea breeze initiated right now. Once they hit the West Coast and that West Coast sea breeze, which is pinned along the coast, gets a little bit of an interaction there. It's going to be more of a diffuse interaction today than anything. Again, it will be the Tampa Bay area with the best opportunity for the storms for this afternoon. And then it's quiet and darn hot tomorrow, and then those storms break out again as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. Anyone have any questions for me right now? Beautiful high-resolution visible satellite imagery for you guys. Again, our area of high pressure is still dominant, still keeping us slightly drier. Okay, if you guys don't, couple of things real quick. First of all, thanks for taking a quick second and liking this live stream. I really do appreciate that. I really appreciate those in the chat who took a second to drop in and say hi. So thank you to Kevin and Blue Goose and Chessie and Kyle for dropping in and being a part of the interaction. This is why I love to do this. Of course, you can always watch this at your convenience. When I get done with this live, it does become a recorded video under the live tab of the CFLW YouTube channel. And of course, we talk about on the Monday show through the week ahead. Friday show is Friday and the weekend. And you can go back and watch it at your leisure. Certainly some information to glean from that over the next couple of days. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, this is a live only channel. So I'm live on Monday and Friday so that we can continue to interact and have nice constant contact to kind of keep abreast of the situation. I can give you guys a heads up of when I think the storm is going to be most rowdy, but then I'm live again for any impactful weather across Central Florida, tracking those storms for you guys live. So I always suggest having all notifications on. That's the bell symbol that you see here on the YouTube channel. Click notifications, click all, because I'm only going to be live when there's something to talk about. So I'm not going to inundate you with updated forecast videos or whatever. You know that when you get a notification from CFLW, there's probably something that you're going to want to tune into. You got it, Chessie, and I appreciate you taking a second for dropping in as well. Friends, please remember that CFLW is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida. We couldn't do it without them. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. It is storm season. When a storm moves across your area, hail damage, wind damage, if you had a burst pipe, if you've been in an auto accident, they can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. They do offer free consultation and policy reviews. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. One more quick look at your current temperatures across the area right now. Let's bring these live here. Very, very uniform numbers, upper 80s to right around the lower 90s. Remember, tomorrow afternoon, places like Ocala and the Villages, we've got 97 for a daytime high. Please be very cautious of the heat in the afternoon hours. We want to get the kids out. We want them to enjoy the summer, but everyone should be cautious of the heat that I expect for tomorrow afternoon. I haven't done this yet, and I don't know if I'm going to have time to bring this up, but I want to do this real fast before we get out of here. It's going to take 1 second for this to fully load up. I mentioned the heat advisories. These are all heat advisories, okay? And I talk much more about this on the Weather Express channel, but from central Louisiana to Maine and Michigan and Wisconsin, heat advisories. That is that huge dome just north of us. And I mean, even into like southern Michigan. Here, I can query these just like I do with everything else we do here. Even into southern Michigan, they've got a heat index of 101. Just picking a couple of spots for you guys. Ohio, 104. Up in Albany, where I worked for a year, feels like 102. So there you go. Again, why is Florida not under the heat advisory, even though we're probably going to have to see, feels like temperatures the same? Is that the Weather Service would probably have to issue heat advisories most afternoons of the summertime, and they want to have a very high threshold, right? They don't see the kind of heat that we typically do. So that's why they have heat advisories. But just to give you an idea of how widespread those heat advisories are going to be. All right, friends, that'll do it for this edition of CFLW Show. Again, as we leave, thank you for taking a quick second and liking this live stream and subscribing to the channel if you haven't as of yet. I'll be monitoring the situation. If there is a need to come back on live at any point in time over the next several days, I certainly will. If for some reason, things pan out, it's just general thunderstorms, I'll see you guys for Friday's CFLW The Show at 1 o'clock. Whenever I see you next, it'll be soon. Until then, thanks again so much for supporting the channel. Y'all take care, and I will see you soon.